Did you know that according to some stat trackers such as Mechabreak.com out there, Welkin has a 75% pick rate across all regions currently in the game right now? Well, I didn't know that till a couple of days ago, but it makes sense because we've been living under the tyrannical rule of Welkin players for far too long, and the July 28th patch is going to change all that. There are a lot of underwhelming strikers in the game right now that needs a lot of love, and what I do like is that they are going to adjust a lot of that, including Hurricane and Inferno. Now both Hurricane and Inferno have been suffering in both of win rate and pick rate during the last month, so it's really nice to see their buffs here. But I do also like that during the stream, Chris mentioned that they do look at both 1, high elo players, and 2, low elo players, and balance that accordingly. So let's take a look right now, starting with the Hurricane buffs. Hurricane is getting a lot more main weapon damage with this patch. Specifically, its main weapon is getting a 2000 damage increase on the non-charge shots, and on the charge shots, the tick rate damage is increased by about 25%. This means that Hurricane is going to punch a lot harder against those super heavy targets and also those mobile targets who are just running around. As we all know, when you're playing Hurricane, it is hard to land those shots sometimes. However, to balance out all of this, they are going to increase the reload rate from 3 seconds to 4 seconds for Hurricane's main weapon. However, I feel like this is probably like a good trade overall. If you are a Hurricane player, you should also know that it sucks being jumped by all the melees in the game, which is why they're specifically targeting that weakness by giving Hurricane's decoy drones a brand new ability. So you already know that Hurricane can parry with its regular drones. It has like a 2-second window just like all the other shields. However, now when a melee comes into attack your decoy drone, that's the triangle thing that's floating around, the decoy drones will explode and stun everybody nearby for 1.6 seconds. That is a huge change, and it makes Hurricane's melee defense very, very dangerous for enemy melees. Because this ability not only stuns the melee players who is being reckless and hitting Hurricane's decoy drones, however, this also damages your teammates if they just so happen to be nearby. So running melees against Hurricane might actually just be a liability in the future if the melee players are not patient enough. Hurricane is also getting a big utility buff with its shields now able to be given to its teammates. So we always had the issue with Hurricane where like it had to jump right on point on stuff like Observatory in order to capture the extractor, right? But that puts it in too much danger, and Hurricane's health and HP doesn't reflect that really that much of a super frontliner. So now it can give a shield to its allies, such as like maybe a Welkin, maybe a Tricera that's on the front lines, and it can stay back as sort of like a range engineer character and was probably always meant to be. So this is a super impactful change that I think will help mitigate some of those difficult point captures on every map. So overall, I expect Hurricane to jump up in viabilities immensely now, and especially I wonder how much this is going to affect those melee players when Hurricane's drone explode in their face. Inferno also had a bit of a problem getting jumped by melee players, you know, all the 4 melees jumping out of the hood and just absolutely thrashing on you. Yeah, that's the Inferno experience right there. However, they understand that Inferno does a lot of freaking damage. Specifically, they did talk about how in high elo, Inferno's damage is really good. Like tournament level, like top 500, Inferno is really good. However, at low elos, it's not performing so well because Inferno is kind of hard to play, and if your team doesn't know how to peel off enemies for Inferno, it is insufferable to play. Therefore, their solution is to give Inferno a lot more mobility. In fact, Inferno's booster kit is getting a lot of good buffs. The booster kit is getting its evade distance, its jump distance, its travel speed, etc increase overall, and energy consumption for Inferno dash wise or evade wise has gone down about 20 to 30%. This is a huge buff for Infernos in terms of escapability, and I know that the top ranked Inferno players are already going to abuse that, but this might be really good for those who are trying Inferno out for the first time, and their booster kit will now actually give them the mobility that they expect from a after images kind of ability. So good change overall. Narukami is somebody that they have described as not doing so hot in the current meta, mostly because Narukami is a non-presence. At least that's what they said on the stream. It doesn't do a lot of teamwork abilities. It's very easy to catch for a lot of the newer strikers like Stellaris, etc. So overall, it felt like for Narukami players, all is doom until probably the patch is coming, because they're adding a lot of good utility to Narukami. Specifically, remember how Hurricane, just like a couple minutes ago, I talked about how they're able to give their shield to another teammate now? Well, Narukami can now do the same. Narukami's bubble camo shield can now be given to teammates in order to, save them, in order to help capture points, in order to just do general troll things like hiding a Tricera on the cart or something like that. Narukami is also getting about a 60% increase to its drone recall and launch rate. This means that you could be further from your decoy drone and still be stealth along with that. Plus, Narukami is getting about a 3,000 point energy increase, which actually is a lot because Narukami has very low energy requirements and consumption, so 3,000 whole points to your maximum energy bar means a lot for Narukami. Oh, and final thing, Narukami gets better jump height. They quoted this as helping Narukami against melees, because when you're facing melees, you're actually supposed to jump to avoid their swings, not dash side to side. So that is something to keep in mind. For my main boy, the Alsynes, it's got like a 300 point energy regen increase for both its modes. It's armored mode and its baby Alsynes mode. So that's cool, I guess. Serenith though, for all three Serenith mains out there in the world, is actually getting a whole wide array of really cool buffs. First, they described on the stream that, hey, Serenith is not doing so hot, so we're giving these extra sustain abilities in order for Serenith to eventually put out the damage that it's supposed to be putting out. So first thing first, the Disruption Aux 1 is getting a mini stagger, which means that if you, let's say, have a Panther running on your use, Stellaris, you lock onto that Panther, press your Aux 1, and they get a little mini staggered if they don't have their complex shields up. 2, Serenith will actually have a stagger immunity on its second Aux now, but this is just more exacerbation of the fact that you are not supposed to die when the jamming haze is active for you. Serenith's energy consumption is also going down. Area evade points down by 300, ground evade points down by 200, jump evade points down by 100, so just overall less energy needed to do all the mobility fun stuff. Last but not least, Serenith is getting a pretty big damage increase on its orbital lasers, so the tick damage is going up, adding to around 5,000 total more damage when you are in the full duration of the orbital laser sync. Not that everybody is going to stand in that orbital laser for that long, but it's a nice buff to an already struggling mech. Basically every single department, Serenith is buff. So I would love to see, from this section, what kind of new compositions that we can fit Serenith into now that it has all this more utility, more survivability, and a little bit more damage. Pinaka, my favorite healer in the world, is getting like 100 reticule lock-on zone increase or something. It's not very big. I would love to see Pinaka's health or fluid shields get increased, because it feels like as Pinaka I'm always getting beamed down or ran into by somebody, but I guess this is a decent buff. Now the final buff that I'm going to be talking about here is really weird, because Falcon finally is able to cancel its radar mode. And that's really good, because basically every other ability in the game that had a duration can be cancelled already. However, Falcon's buffs is more indirect, which is why we will mostly talk about them in the nerfs section starting now. For nerfs, let's talk about Welkin. The developers know now, at least, that Welkin is super overpowered. Not because their role is overpowered. They did say that Welkin is the only like breakthrough mech in the game currently, and that's probably why it's so powerful. But they did admit that his survivability is just a big problem, which is why they are targeting that. But first, I do have to list out that Welkin, Stego, and Lumi were like 100% pick rate in the Chinese tournament the last time I saw it. So that was an insane stat that definitely was looked by the dev team when they like decided on these nerfs. So Welkin's Aux 3, its big riot shield plus energy damage negation ability, is being nerfed by a whole 33%, 1/3 of its duration, from 12 seconds to 8 seconds, 4 seconds gone. Now you might be thinking, hey, that's still 8 seconds of energy beam negation, which is true. I agree, that's still like insane. However, it also makes a matter when Welkin is being countered by the things that it's supposed to be countered, like let's say other melees like Panther and Alsynes. And that makes a matter because in those 12 seconds, without your friend's energy damage or a lot of range damage or melee damage, you are never going to be able to kill the Welkin during those 12 seconds. But now, the invincibility period is much shorter, and its cooldown is still the same. And because the original duration is down, it means that the canceled cooldown is higher. So overall, you can expect Welkins to be a lot more squishy. And as someone who had to play a lot of Welkin in order to do a video that I'm scrapping now because this nerf is coming, I was gonna name it like, oh, this Mechabreak has a Welkin problem. I don't think we're actually gonna have a Welkin problem anymore, especially because its damage is getting nerfed and its energy consumption on the spin is getting nerfed. The damage is going down by 1,000 for the second and third melee swings on Welkin, and the energy consumption for the spin attack is going up by a whole 700 points. And that is not a little bit of energy consumption, especially because Welkins have to keep spinning and re-engage that spin a lot during melee fights. So I think we can expect Welkin stocks to go down. Definitely by this patch, people are going to start figuring out that Welkin is not invincible. However, its capture ability is still top notch. Keep in mind, they did not touch any part of the Welkin box, and also the riot shield's like durability against captures. So what I mean by that is that when you hit the riot shield, right, the Welkin riot shield, you actually don't interrupt Welkin's capture because it will hit the front of the shield instead of Welkin itself. So the shield is being treated like a separate entity, kind of like how Stego's shield is. It's like a forward projection shield. So that part of Welkin is still unchanged. However, keep in mind, for point capture and stuff like that, 2 more mechs just got added to the roster. Hurricane and Narukami both have pretty good utility tools, and Serenith is still buff, and Serenith is a really good point capture mech as well. So maybe, just maybe, we don't need to take Welkin every single game in order to win now. And that's probably a good thing. On the topic of survivability though, oh my god, the Dino boys, the Stego and Tricera are in big trouble. Stego's haze smoke is being nerfed pretty hard. Its lingering duration is going down from 3 seconds to 1.5 seconds. And that means you can't really just spam toggle the smoke button anymore, especially because the total cooldown of the smoke is going up to a whopping 30 seconds. 30 seconds for the smoke ability. Holy Christ, they really didn't want Stego to sit in smoke at close range all the time. Because the big problem with Stego is that it was able to forward deploy really well. Since that smoke was spammable, you would just like deploy, like maybe within even like melee range of somebody, pop the smoke, and now they can't lock onto you anymore. They really don't like that. And they also don't like the combo of Tricera just casually backing up into Stego smoke all the time to refresh his shields. No, they're getting rid of that. So double Dino might be off the table now in the meta. We'll see. this is a really big nerf to Stego, and Stego is going to have to choose its positioning very carefully from now on. Also, there's like a 30-point turret rotation nerf for some reason. I don't know why that's there. Tricera has also got its own nerfs on the table being served to him in court, because Tricera's big shield is getting a recharge delay, and also, I hate to say it, but its anti-missile drones are being nerfed hard. So this is where I was talking about where, like, oh yeah, Falcon is getting a buff. Falcon is getting a buff because Tricera and Sky Raider are getting nerfed. Tricera's anti-missile drones will no longer regenerate ammo when Trike is locked down. The Trike missile drones also had its fire rate decreased by like 0.2 seconds. That's not like a huge deal. However, this means that Trike will have to spend more of its regular bullets to try to intercept Falcon missiles, and it also means Tricera should be spending way more time out of Fortress mode now just to regen those missile drone counters. Now, Sky Raider is getting the same amount of nerfs. Its missile drones will no longer regen when in flight form. So, when you're engaging a Falcon in the sky or trying to counter a Stego in the ground as Sky Raider, you're gonna have to watch that anti-missile counter. It's not free anymore. You have to be not flying in order to get that to regen. That's a lot of downtime you're gonna have to take. And because of these changes, I just feel like Stego and Tricera are gonna be pretty cooked this patch, especially because, well, everything that they have countering them is also getting buffed. Inferno is getting buffed. Hurricane is getting buffed. Serenith is getting buffed. Sky Raider's missile damage is also going to get buffed by about 2,000 a tick. Yes, Sky Raider is getting a damage buff, which is insane, by the way, insane, but it is what it is. And also, Sky Raider's things are going to be, or disruption missiles are going to be slightly nerfed by a second in terms of duration. Overall, we're probably going to see the Dino brothers get taken out of the meta, or at least double stacking them. We might start seeing more Tricera Hurricanes or Stego Hurricanes. That will have to be seen, but I'm very happy for the changes regarding shifting the power level of these super heavy strikers. But you know who's gonna be not fine? Aquila players. Aquila is super dominant in Mechabreak, and one of the things that makes it so dominant in Mechabreak is its infinite ability to hover and fly around all the time. Well, say goodbye to that, because they are doubling Aquila's hover consumption. So that means your jetpack ability is going to be severely nerfed from 1,200 per second of consumption engagement to 2,400 energy consumption, whatever you're hovering. Plus, Aquila's evade consumption is going up by 400, and its overall energy regain threshold for the jetpack is going up by 10%. So it means that it is not only easier to run out of energy, like way faster to run out of energy, it is also harder to recover that energy when you do run out. I think this was a really drastic nerf for specifically Mechabreak, and I think Aquila players are going to have to play, God forbid, more stationary now. God forbid, more like Narukami now, setting up at a good high point and shooting down and conserving your energy at times. Which means that, hey, it might be a really good time for those strikers who are able to catch Aquila already, such as Falcon, such as Stellaris. So we'll have to see what happens to Aquila players. Will they quit the game because of this? I really hope not. But this has to be one of the biggest nerfs in this patch so far. And we are at the end, so it is going to be the biggest nerf in this patch, in my opinion. Even bigger than Welkin's nerfs. Overall, I think this patch is pretty good. It considers both high elo and low elo players. I don't agree with everything. I don't agree at the harshness of some of these, but it is meant to bring the strikers who have really low pick rates and win rates more up, such as like Hurricane, Inferno, and Serenith, and bring some of those like more S tier strikers down, like Stego, Welkin, and Aquila. So I expect to have a brand new meta by this patch, and I can't wait to see how it plays. That's about it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and I hope that you enjoyed. This might be the last video I do in this apartment, in this setup. I am moving soon, so maybe say goodbye to this very specific tower stack. Very happy to get these off of the wonderful people from the Zhuhai International in March. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed all the videos that I've shot in this room so far. And maybe, perhaps even, I'll find a better setup in the next place to come. Thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Please get some water, touch some grass, and I'll see you next time. Ciao!